Hi there, welcome to the first episode of my 10-minute moan of today, and the topic of this one is Branchform, the operation investigating Nicola Sturgeon, her husband, and the ex-treasurer of the SNP. Now, background, the operation's been going on since 2021, and her husband they were all been arrested at one point and released pending further investigation, but her husband, Peter Murrell, was rearrested, charged this time, and we're waiting to hear about his trial. So, what's happened today? Police Scotland ask Crown Office for advice on Operation Branchform probe into Nicola Sturgeon. Operation Branchform has been ongoing since 2021 and resulted in Peter Murrell being charged with embezzlement funds from SNP, and now cops ask the Crown Office for advice about Nicola Sturgeon and Colin Beattie. Now that's a headline from the Daily Express just within the last hour and a half. And the story goes, cops investigating Nicola Sturgeon have asked the Crown Office for advice on what steps to take next in inquiry. Detectives have been looking into the former First Minister and the role she may have played in alleged embezzling of funds from the SNP. Her husband and former party chief Peter Murrell has already been charged by police in relation to Operation Branchform. Prosecutors have been examining a report for months and have yet to decide whether he'll face court on the charges he's been hit with. And now it's been revealed that cops looking into Ms Sturgeon and ex-SNP Treasurer Colin Beattie have asked the Crown Office for guidance about where the probe will go from here. Both Nat politicians have been under investigation since being arrested and interrogated last year. Mr Murrell was pulled in by cops for a second round of questioning in April before he was officially charged with embezzling party funds. He has kept a low profile since then, unlike his wife, who's been doing the tour of book festival events across the UK and even appeared on ITV's election night coverage. Police have sent prosecutors details of what they have uncovered in relation to Ms Sturgeon and Mr Beattie, and an advice and guidance report on Operation Branchform, and are seeking formal advice on what they should do next. This could lead to charges being brought or the case being dropped. Police spokesperson said, on the 9th of August, that's nearly a month ago, we presented the findings of the investigation so far to the Crown Office and Procurator Fiscal Service, and we await their direction on what further action should be taken. The Crown Office confirmed that the police report was under consideration. The investigation has spanned 3 years and revolves around the SNP being reported to the cops after £660,000 of donations for a second independence referendum were allegedly spent elsewhere. But in recent years, top detectives have expanded the probe to include potential misuse of public funds and embezzlement. Cops raided the marital home of Mr Murrell and Ms Sturgeon on April 2023, as well as SNP headquarters, and removed items from the premises. Mr Murrell has been charged a year later. Oh, computers are a bit flyery today. Cops have sent standard prosecution report to the Crown Office concerning incidents in which were said to have taken place between 2016 and 2023. Senior Crown Office lawyers are still considering whether there is sufficient evidence to prosecute the former SNP chief executive and whether it would be in the public interest to do so. Ms Sturgeon and Mr Beattie are still active police suspects in the investigation. The former First Minister, has repeatedly denied that her decision to resign in her job was influenced by the police probe, even though she quit just 2 months before her home was raided. She has also insisted that she has not done anything wrong and that she would fully cooperate with the inquiry. Right. So what does all that mean? Well, what normally happens is, once you're charged, the police investigate you. If they think there's criminality, they'll serve you with a charge. They then send that to the prosecution service, who will consider the evidence against you and consider the likelihood of a conviction and whether it's in the public interest. And then, if they think that's happened, you'll be issued with court dates and the whole thing goes to court. I'm not sure exactly what's happened here, but because it's a bit odd, because what they seem to be saying is the police have sent all their findings so far to the prosecuting services and saying, what do you want us to do next? Now, I think it's fair to say they must have something that they feel has potential for illegality, or they wouldn't send anything to the prosecuting office, because why would you? If they'd looked into the other two people being investigated and thought no criminality, why would they send the stuff up the chain? So I'm prepared to assume, I think using common sense, logic and probability, that the police have found something they feel is criminal, and they've asked the prosecution services to look at it before they do the charge. So instead of doing the charge and then sending it to the prosecutor, they seem to be saying to the prosecutor, do you think we should charge or not? Which maybe is a wee bit unusual. It might be common, more common than I know, but it's certainly slightly different from what they've done with Peter Murrell. They charged him, then they send, like a normal case, all the paperwork to the prosecution office, and then they decide if it's going to go to court or not. So that's what's happened, and I think it's safe to assume that the police must feel there is criminality involved, or why would they send their findings to the prosecution? And the other thing that's very obvious is the second lot of stuff that was sent on the 6th of August is pertaining to Beattie and Sturgeon, because they've already submitted 6 months ago the paperwork for Murrell, who's been charged. So they're not sending more paperwork about Murrell. And what happens next? Well, I'm kind of hopeful that the police have got enough evidence and enough suggestions of criminality that the word will come back and say, yeah, go ahead and do it. Why is it taking 4 weeks? I don't know. I'm not a prosecution expert. I'm just a guy with obvious interest in the case, being a citizen of the United Kingdom who lives in Scotland. So these people are part of a party that I quite dislike. I feel they've made my life worse as a Scottish person for all the years that they've been in, 17 years now, in power in Scotland. And one of the biggest influences on that failure to manage the Scottish Parliament and government is Nicola Sturgeon. She's a terrible First Minister. No substance. All show, no substance. Said a lot of things, but judge me on education, all that sort of nonsense, all that headline grabbing stuff. But I don't think she's been very good at all as a First Minister. I think her dealings, although she'd done a lot of showboating and fan dancing around the COVID times, was terrible. And that is a woman that stood in front of me every night in my living room, and she told me one thing that I will never forgive her for. And that is telling me that the Jags were safe and effective. They're not. They weren't. They never were. I've seen the contracts, remember. I've done a video on it before. And they said the complete opposite. They said that they could not certify the safeness or the efficacy, which means how efficient they are. So they're neither safe nor effective. And I don't know how anybody who had sight of the contracts for these Jags could ever have said that to the Scottish public. And that brings us on to another thing which Nicola Sturgeon is involved in, and that is a criminal case, or complaint rather, which I believe has been investigated for corporate manslaughter, or whatever terminology we use for that in Scotland. So that's Nicola's hall of shame all the time, rising. I would hope that the prosecution service, now that this is in the public domain, they would appear to be more quick to react to this, because you can't have the public ask questions for too long. And I hope that the Scottish public get the answers that they deserve, and that is to know what's happening. Is Peter Murrell going to court? And is Nicola Sturgeon and Colin Beattie being charged or not? Just tell us. Whatever way it is. Now, most people, I think normal people out there, would hope they all get charged. So that would mean we get news soon about Mr Murrell's court case, and we get news soon about whether or not Nicola Sturgeon and Colin Beattie are indeed going to be charged and hopefully follow Mr Murrell to court. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you've not already done so, please hit the subscribe button and notification. Let us know what you think about the story in the comments below, but most importantly of all, Unless you're Nicola Sturgeon, Colin Beattie or Mr Murrell. Everybody else, have a great day. Cheery bye now.